and welcome to another tutorial. My name is Tenmei Bakshi, and this time we're going to be going over how you can use the IBM Watson Knowledge Studio in order to create custom classifier models for the Natural Language Understanding service, even though you can actually use it to create custom models for many other services. And now let's talk about how this works. So let's actually begin. Now, to start off, what is the IBM Watson Knowledge Studio? Well, the IBM Watson Knowledge Studio is basically, as the name suggests, a studio where you can go to train Watson services that can normally not be trained. For example, the Natural Language Understanding service. Now, if you're not familiar with the Natural Language Understanding service, well, it's actually a quite new service, and it's basically a rebranding of Alchemy Language from the Alchemy brand to the IBM Watson brand, and to bring it into the Watson Developer Cloud family where it fits in with all of the other APIs. So that's what IBM is doing with the Natural Language Understanding service, and they're now deprecating Alchemy Language by using the same engine that powers Alchemy Language, inside of NLU, Natural Language Understanding. And so basically, what I'm here to tell you today is how you can actually use that very IBM Watson Knowledge Studio in order to train the Natural Language Understanding service, even though it cannot be trained. So let's talk about that. Now, before I actually get into how we're going to be training the Natural Language Understanding service, let me talk a little bit about what the NLU does by default. So, for example, if I were to take a sentence like, Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple and was born on November 1st, 1960. Okay? So what's happening here is we've got this sentence that has information that Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple and was born on November 1st, 1960. Now, we've got a lot of information here, and what the Natural Language Understanding service will do is it will actually label this information so that we can actually make use of it and use it in our applications in order to make decisions. So what it's going to do is it's actually going to label Tim Cook in the text as person. And it'll name CEO as job title. And it'll name Apple as, well, as you guessed, company. Okay, and I'll talk about the rest in just a moment. But the NLU service is basically going to tag all of the important pieces of text from this sentence. And in fact, that's actually what my application Ask Tenmei uses in order to give people their answers. Now, in case you're not familiar with Ask Tenmei is actually this NLQA system, or Natural Language Question Answering System, that can take your questions and answer them for you. And it's powered by IBM Watson's Natural Language Understanding service, and the way it works is by running an 8-step algorithm. But the core step basically, once it creates some candidate answers from which to, choose answers from, in order to filter out those answers, the main filtering is done by NLU by saying, okay, if the user is looking for a company, we shouldn't be giving them job titles or persons. Instead, we should only be giving them company results, and that's what the NLU service will help us do. But you see, there's just one thing. Let's just say I wanted to program Ask Tenmei to actually give date answers. It can say, when was Tim Cook born, and it'll return November 1st, 1960. But currently, that's not possible. And the reason is because the NLU service does not support giving you dates. It will not classify this as a date because it doesn't understand this as an entity. Date entities are not supported with Alchemy Language or the Natural Language Understanding service as they were in the past with Relationship Extraction, which was then replaced by Alchemy Language. And so basically, what the Watson Knowledge Studio will let us do is it will actually let us train our own natural language understanding service, a custom model for the service, which will have date as an entity. And we will train it to understand dates in sentences, where they usually show up in sentences, and how to recognize a date. And the way this is going to work is we're going to give it many examples of sentences like these, and we're going to label this as the date in every sentence. And eventually, what's going to happen is, let's just say we do this 10 times. The Watson Knowledge Studio will train the NLU service using its machine learning capabilities, so on, to actually understand where the date occurs, and then we can implement it to Ask Tanmay, a feature to give date answer types, because now it can find the date as an entity within natural language with the NLU service. And that's what the Knowledge Studio will let us do. It's going to allow us to find those entities in our text using the natural language understanding service. Before this, the Alchemy Language Service was, of course, compatible with this, but the only thing is the Alchemy Language Service is now going to be deprecated, and so there's practically no point, showing you how to do it with Alchemy Language. Instead, we're going to be doing it with the Natural Language Understanding Service, which is now in general availability phase. This can also be used to train Discovery, and of course there will be future videos telling you how you can train the Discovery service to understand your text using the Knowledge Studio. But for now, let's go over to the coding part, where I'm going to show you how exactly you can use the Knowledge Studio in order to create a date parser through natural language with the Natural Language Understanding Service. Alright, let's get to that now. Alright, so welcome back to the coding part, and now I'm going to be showing you how you can actually train the custom model using the Watson Knowledge Studio. So let's begin by actually opening up the Knowledge Studio. So as you can see over here, I've got the Knowledge Studio open, and once you've actually signed up for trial, or maybe even actually bought the real version of the Knowledge Studio, whatever floats your boat here, once you have access to the Knowledge Studio, then you're ready to begin building your project. So to begin, what you're going to do is you're going to create your project by clicking on this little Create Project button. Now, in this case, our project is all about parsing date from natural language. So we're going to call this the Date Knowledge Studio project. Once that's done, we're going to keep the language of documents as English and then click on Create. Wait for a moment while it creates our project, and once it's done creating the project, it will automatically take you into the project view. And inside of this view, you are able to, of course, modify really all the attributes of your project, and of course deploy it to the Natural Language Understanding Service. Now, to begin though, we have to first define what exactly is going to be inside of this project. So in this case, entity types. Basically, what we mean by this is basically what types of entities this classifier, this natural language understanding model should be able to identify. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Add Entity Type button here, and we're going to give the entity type a name called Date, because we want it to be able to select or, of course, parse out dates from our natural language. Once you've done that, click on Save, and don't give it any subtypes or roles. It'll automatically fill those out for you. And once that's done, you should have a new entity type called Date. Now, before you go any further, you have to have some training data, and this is where this little text file comes in. I've actually prepared some training data that can be used with the Knowledge Studio in order to train it. As you can see, it says, I was born on March 17th, 1987. Apple was founded on 01/04/1976, or 1st April 1976. IBM was created by Charles Ranlett Flint on June 16th of 1911 in New York City. Tanmay was born in 2003. Tanmay Teaches, Tanmay's YouTube channel, was created on 12/25/2011. Etc., etc. It continues on. There are quite a few examples here. And this is actually very, very small training data compared to what you should be feeding into the Knowledge Studio. You should actually be giving it a lot more data, but just as an example of how you can use this, this is what we're going to be using today. Alright, so once you've got that down, then you're ready to head over to the Knowledge Studio, and once you're there, head over to Documents on the top right corner here. And so basically beside the type system, which is where you're currently at, there should be a button called Documents. Click onto it and you'll switch over to the Documents pane. Over here, click on Import Document Set, and click on the Import Gray Boundary. Then what you need to do is import your Knowledge Studio training data, and then click on the Import button. Once you've imported that text, then you're ready to do something called create an annotation set. An annotation set basically means that this is a document that we're going to be annotating. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to take 100% of all the documents we have, which in this case we only have one document full of training data, and what we're going to do is we're going to set me as the annotator. And we're going to set this as the date annotator. And so what this is going to do is it's going to assign me as the annotator for this document over here that we've imported, and tell me that I have to put in the dates from inside of this document. Once that's done, click on Generate, and it will create an annotation set. Once you're there, you can skip dictionaries and rules, because we're not doing anything preset, we're doing, machine learning stuff here, and skip right over to human annotation. Here what we're going to do is we're actually going to annotate that document that we just uploaded as training data in order for the Natural Language Understanding Service to find patterns in where dates are and what dates are in our sentences. In order to do this, click on Add Task and enter in Date Annotation Task. That's just what I'm calling this task. You can set a deadline if you wish and click on Create. Make sure you select your annotation set that you created at the beginning, and then go ahead and click on Create Task. Once that's done, then click on the task itself, and click on the Annotate button. Once you're there, it'll take you to this new page, and this new page will have our document. Click on the document, and it'll open up this annotation view. Once you're in the annotation view, then click on the Date button on the side here, the right side, and this will mean that you are now tagging date entities within your text. Once that's done, then start clicking on the dates that are inside of your text. For example, this first one is I was born on March 17th, 1987. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on March. I clicked March. I'm not currently clicking or anything. And then once that's done, I'm going to just separately click on 1987. Click the space bar, and it'll note this as a date. Do the same thing for the rest of the dates in your text. And once you've noted all of your dates, then you should be good to go. As you can see, I've noted all of the dates in this text. Each line has one date, and they're in many different formats and in many different places in the sentence, and with many different wording formats in the sentence as well. This is going to give the Knowledge Studio a good idea of what a date actually is, and not just say, oh well, if the word born is in a sentence, then well, whatever comes at the end is a date. No, it'll actually understand the concept of a date and then give you your results because it has that variation in the data. Once that's done, then just click on Save here, click Close, and then click Submit All. Of course, if you have more documents, then you're going to annotate all of those documents, and then click on Submit All. Once that's done, click OK, and then you are done. You can now close this new tab that was opened, and come back here and click on Refresh. As you can see, this has now been submitted, but now we have to actually accept the changes in the annotations that I've made into the training data. So I'm going to click on this annotation set and click on Accept because I know I did this correctly. I'm going to accept it and click OK to confirm that I want to accept that data. That has been completed, and it is part of the ground truth. We can now go to the Annotator Component tab of our Knowledge Studio and create a new machine learning annotator. This is going to allow us to actually deploy a new machine learning annotator to the Natural Language Understanding Service. And you can of course use the rule, dictionary, or alchemy language pre-annotators or annotators, but I'd recommend just using the machine learning one for now, and that's what I'm going to teach you how to do. So I'm going to create this type of annotator, and of course since we only have one document, we're going to select the document set, and of course since, as I was saying, since we only have one document, we have to use that as our training document, and we have no test set and no blind set. So 100% of our documents are going to be in the training, 0 in the test set, and 0 in the blind set. Once that's done, click on Next. And then what's going to happen, just keep everything here default. and click on Train. Once you click on Train, it's actually going to start training your Knowledge Studio service here. And once it's done training this machine learning annotator, then we will actually be able to deploy it to natural language understanding. In the meanwhile, let's actually head over to Bluemix. And in your Bluemix catalog, you're going to go over, as I said, to the catalog, and you're going to search up for the natural language of understanding Bluemix. Oops. Okay, so we're going to search up understanding and find the natural language understanding service. Click on the service. I'm going to be choosing the free plan, and then we're going to call this service, let's just say something like Watson Knowledge Studio Date Parser NLU for natural language understanding. We're going to leave this unbound to any application, choose the free pricing plan, and then click on Create. Now what's happening is it's creating our natural language understanding service, and with this we'll be able to actually use that custom model. Alright, so we've created our natural language understanding service, and now that we're here, we're ready to actually use the service. And in order to do this, you're actually going to have to head over to the API Explorer for Watson and open up the Natural Language Understanding API Explorer page. Now, in the Natural Language Understanding API Explorer page, you can basically create requests to the Natural Language Understanding services, run them, and actually test them out on a web interface. But before you do that, you actually have to fill out your credentials. So go back to Bluemix and find your service credentials for the Natural Language Understanding service. So as I was saying, you have to copy the username into the username field here, and then go back to Bluemix and copy your password into the password field. Once you've filled out those credentials in the API Explorer, you're ready to continue and analyze. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to actually click on one of these Analyze buttons here, and this will call the Analyze service for the Natural Language Understanding service. Once you're here, you can actually just use these default filled out fields here, and the text we're going to be giving the NLU service is my name is Tim Cook, or just Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple and was born on November 1st of 1960. So now, as you can see, what we've done is we've given it a date, we've given the job title, the company, and the entity, which is person. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tell the Natural Language Understanding service to only return entities, and then from there to actually try it out. Now, as you can see, in our response body, we get Tim Cook as a person, we get CEO as a job title, and we get Apple as a company. But the thing is, we don't get our date, and that's because we haven't told the NLU service to use our custom model to train with or to use. As you can see, the Knowledge Studio is still training. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually let this train, and once it is done training, we will be right back in the video, and then I'll show you how exactly you can integrate this with the Natural Language Understanding service. Alright, so as you can see, the Knowledge Studio says that it is now done training this machine learning annotator. So I can then just click this little close button here, and as you can see, it says we are complete. Now what we can do is we can actually head over to the details pane here, and we're going to click on Create Takes Snapshot. What this is going to do is it's going to take the first version, which is the only version of this annotator that we've created, and it's going to take a snapshot of it. We're going to give it a small description, maybe something like Date Parser NLU v1. I'm going to click on OK. And then what happens is it creates that 1.0 version, creation date, and etc., gives it a description. And what happens is it creates a 1.1 version, and it allows you to take a snapshot. But instead, what we're going to do is we're actually going to click on Deploy. And what this is going to do is for version 1.0, this will deploy it. And what we can do is we can select Natural Language Understanding to have it deployed to, well, Natural Language Understanding. I'm going to click on Next, and once I click on Next, I can actually choose my space in Bluemix and the instance that I'd like to deploy it to. Once I choose those options, click on Deploy, and then as you can see, it's now deploying to the Natural Language Understanding Service. You can then take this model ID, which is the ID of your custom model that you've just created, and click on OK. Go back to the Watson API Explorer, and you should see something called entities.model. Inside of entities.model, paste in your model ID. And once you've pasted in your model ID, go down and click on Try It. Now you should get an error, and this is error code 500, and it says model temporarily not available. And this is because it's currently working on deploying this to the Natural Language Understanding Service. It's been trained, it just needs to deploy. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take a quick break for around 2 or 3 minutes, wait for this to become available, and in around 3 minutes I will be right back, and then we will be able to actually use this service. I'll be right back. Alright, so let's see if the model is now available with the Natural Language Understanding Service. So let's click on Try It Out once more. And as you can see, the model is available, and it gives us back the entity of type date November 1st of 1960. And this is absolutely great because we've, again, never given this exact sentence to it in the training data, yet it was able to parse out the date, which proves its machine learning capability. And now if we were to give it a lot of different types of dates, it would eventually generalize the concept of a date, and it would be able to parse a date from almost any sentence you would give it. And that is exactly how this application works. I really do hope you enjoyed this video and hope you were able to learn something from it. But alright, that's going to be it for this video today. I really hope you were able to learn something and hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please make sure to leave a like down below. And of course, if you believe this could help anybody else you know, like your friends or family, please do make sure to share the video as well. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, you can leave that down in the comment section below. Email them to me at taggymanny@gmail.com. or tweet them to me at taggymanny. But of course, if you really like my content and you want to see a lot more of it, please do consider subscribing to the channel as well, as it really does help out a lot. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release new content, please do make sure to turn on notifications as well by clicking the little bell icon beside the subscribe button. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.